Men dream of women. Women dream of themselves being dreamt of. Men look at women. Women watch themselves being looked at. Women constantly meet glances which act like mirrors, reminding them of how they look or how they should look. Behind every glance is a judgment. To be nude is to be seen naked by others and yet not recognized for oneself. A nude has to be seen as an object in order to be a nude. She sees herself first and foremost as a sight, which means a sight for men. Thus, the mirror became a symbol of the vanity of women. Yet the male hypocrisy in this is blatant. You paint a naked woman because you enjoy looking at her. You put a mirror in her hand, and you call the painting vanity, thus morally condemning the woman whose nakedness you have depicted for your own pleasure, and thus, incidentally, repeating the biblical example by blaming the woman.
I'm Sarah Lucas. It's such a funny question about inspiration, because obviously I was invited to do it, so in a way I'm sort of obliged to get inspired by it at that point. But to tell you the truth, the thing I'm working from mostly is more my kind of instinctive, more emotional feeling about visiting the space. I mean, the space itself is really hard, made of really hard materials, and it's really quite austere. I think I had a kind of emotional response to that, and a feeling that I really wanted to lighten it up. Well, welcome. Thanks all for coming. One thing that's quite important is we are actually making a painting. It's not about just going completely balmy with eggs.
The main theme in my work, I guess it is women. It is femininity, but very artificial femininity. So femininity taken to the extreme. And then underneath that, it's about the emotion. It's about the feeling of desire.
It's like the bionic woman and this sort of fantasy of this ideal. We're always trying to suppress aging, and everything should be perfect and fresh and edible and delicious, but underneath is this real death and decay. And I'm like, no, let's see more of that. The emotion that I'm trying to put forward in the images is this person who's, I don't know, has this fantasy. And I think we all have this, where you imagine what things are going to be like and what you're going to be like in this dream situation, and you really build it up. And then the gap in between that fantasy and reality is just filled with disappointment. But inside you're dying and you're like this, you just want to cry. And so that's a very universal horror. It's not blood, it's not crazy, it's not anything out of this world. It's just a very common emotion. It's a bit like what we do to women when we photograph them. We'll cover them in glosses and oils and things to make them look completely edible, but actually it's artificial.
When someone takes a look into the mirror, it reflects the person's face. That makes me feel that the viewer becomes me, or I stole that person's face. My photography works are often featured as self-portrait. However, my body and myself actually functioned as a mannequin. Only in my own room, I don't need to think about the feeling of inferiority. My room had been always a place that would protect me and allow me to dream.
Not exactly insentient, for she could still hear the buzzing, so-called, in the ears, and a ray of light came and went, such as the moon might cast, drifting in and out of cloud, but so dulled, feeling so dulled, she did not know what position she was in. Imagine what position she was in, whether standing or sitting, but the break, what? Kneeling, yes, whether standing or sitting or kneeling.